Hey guys, it's me. So in honor of Pride, I wanted to share my coming out story. I am a bisexual woman, and it was rough. It was really rough, and part of what made it so rough was that my parents had queer friends, and sort of sold themselves as people who were like pro LGBT until it was their own kid. So the first night, my mom had gone through my phone and she found some text messages between me and this other girl and asked me some questions. And I was like, look, fine, I'm gay. Like I didn't at the time tell her I was bisexual. I like went back and like clarified later that I was bisexual with like a preference towards women and that I was talking to a girl. Um and my mom freaked the fuck out. She almost hit me and that was really scary. And then like she didn't tell my dad right away. I don't remember why, but she didn't tell my dad like that night. But the next day, because of her reaction, I was like, oh shit, like if dad finds out, it's going to be really bad because dad was not a pleasant man. So the next morning, I asked her to not tell dad, and she was like, well, he's my husband. So I have to tell him. So that was her logic for like outing me to my dad. So that was cool. Um, and it was a fiasco. It was like a week long fiasco. And recently I talked to my sister about it because she's also like bisexual. And I was like making a joke about how traumatic my coming out was to my sister. And I was like, oh, I took all these punches for you so that you could come out and it would be no big deal. Because for her, it wasn't. Like, my parents didn't make a big deal out of it whenever she came out. So when my dad found out, he said that I was going to be like his sister who is an alcoholic and who he has like a really bad relationship with. Like they don't talk. Um and that I was gonna like be alone forever and that I was gonna, die with a million cats. Like that's what they told me. Um, so that was cool. And it went on for like a week and there was just like a lot of aggression from them. And then, eventually I guess like things kind of died off. Like I guess they realized that like them reacting this way was not going to change the fact that I liked women, you know? And, but this was like, it's apparently a pretty common experience to have parents who are pro LGBT until it comes to their own kids. Their own kids aren't allowed to be gay. So I had a really good friend at the time whose mom was a teacher at our school, and she was like this very earthy, crunchy sort of type, very like liberal, you know what I mean? Not leftist, liberal. So, and when he came out, she was like threatening to kick him out. Like it was horrible. And I just wanted to like kind of share my story because I wanted people to know that like if this happened to you, it's not uncommon. I don't understand why people have that reaction. I really don't. As someone who's never found it like weird or like wrong to be attracted to the same gender, like can't relate, you know what I mean? Like I don't understand the thought process to it, but um it is very common. And um nowadays they go to Pride and they're like very like outwardly supportive of my queer identity, but I think that part of that is because I am in a relationship with a man, and they would be less comfortable if I were in a long-term relationship with a woman. Um but they've got issues. My parents have issues. So that's where we're at. And good thing for my sister, I guess, like, she, even though she says she doesn't remember any of this, I don't remember if she was home. She had to have been home because it went on for like a week. um but she doesn't like remember any of it, so maybe it was just one of those traumatic experiences that she blocked out. um but something in her told her to keep it to herself. And then, like, after she had moved out, she was like at some restaurant with my mom, and she mentioned that another woman was attractive. And all my mom did was like, "Oh, is that a thing?" And my sister was like, "Yeah, it's a thing." And then that was it. So, good for her for avoiding that. She did not avoid all of the trauma because my parents had plenty to give around, but when it comes to like coming out trauma, she did manage to avoid that. So, good for her, proud of her for making a wise decision there, because my experience was not pleasant. So, and I think it's really interesting to during Pride, like, you see a lot of people saying that like bisexual people like shouldn't be allowed at Pride, or like aren't like really queer, or that we're just like confused. Like, there's a lot of biphobia within the queer community that obviously needs to be addressed, but God knows when that'll happen. So, but like we do have the same experiences as other queer people. We do have a lot of the same trauma with coming out as a lot of queer people, and we have a lot of the same like discrimination and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't matter if you're like fully gay or like bisexual. Like, if people are going to be homophobic, they're going to be homophobic towards both of you. And it doesn't really like, it might change like the nature of the comments. Like, they might tell me that I'm confused and they might tell you that something else, but the discrimination is still there and the trauma is still there. So we do belong at Pride. And that's just, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to stop being attracted to people regardless of gender, which, like, I can't help that. Like, I thought that y'all knew that that was how queerness worked, but apparently some of y'all don't. So, yeah, that's my experience with coming out, and it was horrible. And I hope that none of y'all have to go through that. But if you did go through that, you are not alone. Um, and yeah, like the confusion part was like really rough, of like them being so pro LGBT until it came to their own kids. Like, that was so confusing and like heartbreaking, and like just it rocked my world the way that they responded, because I truly did not expect it to go that way. Um but it did. And now every Pride Month I get to think about my horrendous coming out experience and relive that. So that's fun. That's fun. So, if you have a similar experience or a different experience, I would love to hear how yours went. Or if you're, thinking about coming out, really, really think about it. You know what I mean? Because it's not something that should be done rashly, or should be, done without consideration, because you really never know how people are going to react, even if they like present themselves as being one way, it may be very different when it's their own family member. So keep that in mind, and be cautious. And above all else, protect yourself. You don't want to lose your place to live just because you're gay. So if it's not safe to come out, we have other options. You can be out to your friends, or be out at school, or be out, at the Gay Straight Alliance Club at your school or whatever. But maybe at home, maybe wait. Maybe wait until you're an adult. I should have. So, yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you for listening, and happy Pride.